Cincinnati, Texas is a ghost town, a distant memory and place lost in time deep in the history of Texas. Outside of some Texas history buffs and perhaps a minority of folks living in and around Walker County, Texas, it's virtually unknown. In this video, we're going to get a small glimpse back in time at this once flourishing and prosperous community from the dawn of the Republic of Texas. Not long after Texas won her independence from Mexico, James C. DeWitt began the process of building the settlement as early as 1836 on land awarded him for fighting in the Battle of San Jacinto. The town was laid out in 38 blocks around a square reserved for the county seat. On February 2, 1842, the town would be named the county seat of newly formed Hamilton County, created out of then counties Montgomery and Houston. The Texas Supreme Court would later rescind that action, returning Cincinnati to Montgomery County in less than a year. DeWitt named the town New Cincinnati after the twin cannons used at the Battle of San Jacinto, a gift of the Ohio city of Cincinnati. Later land disputes determined the land actually had belonged to a Presbyterian minister, Peter Fullenwider, who likely never set foot in the town itself. The New was dropped from the town name fairly early on and is now sometimes referred to as Old Cincinnati by Walker County locals. Cincinnati was the furthest point up the Trinity River that was reliably navigable for steamboats to travel, thus making it an important shipping center at the time, well before railroads had become commonplace in Texas. Baled cotton was shipped out while other supplies for the surrounding area were shipped in. The town grew to have several streets during its peak, including a few named for heroes of the Revolution, such as Milam and DeWitt. Homes were built roomy with porches and columns. The town had a bowling alley and 2 churches filled on every Sunday. The town also had a post office, blacksmith shop, saddle shop, a school, saloons, a shoemaker, and a tailor. The first structure built in the town would be a 2-story hotel known as Hunter's Tavern. This was built by my great-great-great-great-grandfather, George Eliot Hunter, a veteran of the War of 1812. The town grew to 600 residents, and the town could also boast having nearly 20 residents who were veterans of the Battle of San Jacinto. Much of the time, the town was run by a big Irishman, Frederick Pomeroy, and an associate of his, one Isaac Towsey, both of whom were affiliated with James C. DeWitt. All 3 were lodge brothers, along with George Hunter, via the Olive Branch Masonic Lodge of Cincinnati. In the fall of 1853, the town would face a terrible plague. Yellow fever had come to Cincinnati. The first to go was my great-great-great-great-grandmother, Tamar Hunter, a woman who had just recently lost her husband George to a steamboat accident. Tamar had assisted an ailing traveler who had been helped off a steamboat to Hunter's Tavern. She nursed the man, trying to bring his fever down, only to eventually be stricken with the very same illness herself. Within a month or two, over 200 people would die, while many others fled the town. It's often been reported that this plague is what led to the town's demise. No, Cincinnati actually survived, though it never thrived as well as it had before the epidemic came. It wasn't until a railroad line being built in the area would end up passing east of Cincinnati and instead establishing the town of Riverside in 1872. Even still, the town survived up until about 1892, when postal service to the town ended and finally sealed the fate of the once blossoming community. Very little is left to indicate there was ever a town full of life on this high bluff overlooking the Trinity River. In 1936, the State Historical Commission planted a marker as a reminder that a town once stood here. There's also a well that was added by Texas Rangers around 1940, a well that has since collapsed in on itself. Finally, there are the remains of the 3 cemeteries of Cincinnati, most of which has been swallowed by earth over time. As of now, only a small section of cemetery has been preserved. This area was protected by a fence added by James Marcus Smith to protect the family plot. Marcus, as he was called, is another relative of mine with the same close ties to Cincinnati as myself. The land where the town once stood was passed down from him to his son and now belongs to his grandson. One side note here, this is private property, so do not attempt to visit the site of the town on your own, as you would be trespassing. Marcus and myself both have other common ancestors who lived in Cincinnati besides the aforementioned George and Tamar Hunter. This includes Marcus's father, James Hansford Smith, and his wife, Emma Kate Robinette. who are also my great-great-grandparents, as well as James Hansford Smith's parents, John Stephen Smith, who settled in Cincinnati by 1845, and his wife Arabella, daughter of George and Tamar Hunter. Their graves and several related family members occupy the best preserved cemetery plot.